Hello everyone and welcome to Mr. Mo Dynasty. It's episode 2 of the Mesa St Monsters, and today we're going to be looking at the preseason and see how this is shaping up for Coach Mo as he takes on his most difficult challenge, the Mesa St Monsters.
So here we are, college football 26. I am so excited to start a new season of college football. Last year they really gave a great product. We had been waiting so long, and I feel like this year they've just improved on everything. This year, I'm going to be taking the Mesa State Monsters, the Gila Monsters of Mesa, Arizona. I made them the lowest rated team in the game, and we are going to be an independent to start off this dynasty. I am going to be the head coach, and we're going to be making Coach Mo is going to be a motivator. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Let's start with my calendar. So for the first day it says, congratulations, I've been hired to be the head coach of the Mesa State Monsters. In my interviews, the AD discussed my job security and how he assesses my future with the team using the job security rating. So the job security rating is a rating that is a numerical scale, with 100 being safe and 0 being fired. Different actions and events may make my JSR increase or decrease. At the end of a season, if my JSR is 0 or lower, I will be let go by the team. So yeah, the game does have firing on or off, but because this team is so bad, I have turned coach firing off in the game, but I do it on my own assessment of how I'm doing. And so at the start of the season, my job security rating starts at 80. So that gives me a couple years to try to build this program out before I get canned. During the next interview, the AD wants to get more information about my coaching philosophy. So over the next few slides, I basically have something that I think would be cool for college football to have, and that is the personality of the coaches. And this year's installment, they're starting to get more about the personality of the coaches, especially with their playbooks. But I do think there's more to coaching than just the playbooks. And so over these next few slides, I have added what I think would be neat for college football to have. So the question that is asked is, which side of the ball is my expertise? And it's on a scale of 0, of course, is in the middle. If you lean this way, you're more of an offensive coach, over this way, a defensive coach. And of course, the bigger the number, the more you lean that way. And so I basically said I am a 4 out of 5 when it comes to offense. That's more my expertise. Now we'll see if that actually plays out in the game, but that's what I told the AD. The next question, he wanted to know, how do I see turning Mesa State into a winner? Will it be through recruiting or through my knowledge of X's and O's? And so I tied this question's response into the game, the 3 backgrounds that they have between tactician, recruiter, and motivator. So in the game, if you are a tactician, that would be more X's and O's. And then if you are more of a recruiter, obviously it'd be towards recruiting. And then my thought process was, if I had a number between 2, 1, 0, 1, or 2 in this middle region, then I'm more of a motivator. So I put the response of being 2 X's and O's because I want to be a motivator in the game. So my response for this one is, I'm a 2 on X's and O's, but definitely more of a motivator with a slight preference to the X's and O's over the recruiting. The next question that he asked is, how much of the play calling will I leave to my coordinators? And so am I a very hands-on coach that likes to also call the plays, or do I let my coordinators do a lot of the play calling? And I said I'm definitely a 4. Like, I want to definitely have most of the input on the play calling, but I will occasionally let them make some decisions. The next question that they asked me was, that the AD asked me, is, how will I handle the media? Am I very open with the media, very chatty? Am I not afraid to say what's on my mind, or do I hold things closer to the vest? So in some ways, think of media stoic as like a Bill Belichick, where you're really tight-lipped, and then media chatty. I don't know. Pete Carroll seemed kind of that way, but definitely I said I'm more of a media chatty kind of person. So I'm going to be, friendly with the media and tell them how I feel. The next question that the AD asked is, how often will I like to take chances as a coach? Will I go for it on 4th and short? Will I, make some aggressive play calls? And I definitely said I will lean heavily towards the aggressive. I'll be a 4 out of 5 when it comes to aggressive play calling. And so that's my answer for that one. The next question that the AD asked was about, how will I respond to problems with the players as far as discipline issues? Am I more of an authoritarian, or am I more of a player's coach? And I said I'm a more of a player's coach, but slightly. So I definitely still want to have discipline on the team, but yeah, I'm probably more of a player's coach than an authoritarian. The next question: how will I respond on the sidelines as things are going on during the game? Well, this one I can tell you without question, as I actually have coached in real life basketball games. I was definitely a cheerleader. I was jumping up and down and very much into the game. So I know in this answer, I'm a 5 cheerleader. I'm not stoic on the sidelines. I'm going to let my emotions be worn on my sleeve, and I'm going to let them know how things are going, whether I'm happy or sad, angry or frustrated. It's going to show, and I'm definitely a 5 cheerleader on the sidelines. The next question is that I'm asked is, what type of players will I tend to recruit to build a program? Am I looking strictly for talent, or am I looking for character guys? And since this is a new program, I'm actually leaning towards character guys. We'll get to talent eventually, but for now, I have a slight lean towards the character guys. I don't want the prima donnas. I don't want the people that are going to be clubhouse cancers. I want to have a good program, and I want to build young men that are ready for the world, and they're going to learn through some football how to become that. And I don't want the me players, the I want this to be a team effort. And the next question, the last question I was asked by the AD is, what's more important to me, winning at all cost or building a winning culture? This ties in a little bit with the previous question, but what am I willing to do to have our program win? Am I willing to cut moral, ethical questions, corners to win, or are we trying to build the best quality team? And winning is important, but it's not the only thing. And so I put a winning culture as a 4 out of 5. I'm not going to cheat the system. I'm not going to, obviously with the transfer portal and all the NIL money, those things are a little bit in the past, but I'm going to make kids go to school. I'm going to make kids, study for their exams, and we're going to make sure that the players are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're student athletes, and I want to make sure that they keep it that way. So that is my response for that question. Then the AD talks about my approval ratings, and I was excited to see that in Madden they're adding this now this year. In Madden 26, they're adding the approval ratings, which I feel like I've been doing for the last couple of years in my franchise and dynasties. So this is cool, but basically it's just a gauge of how you are being viewed by different groups and in alphabetical order. And the most important, the AD. Obviously, if the AD doesn't approve of me, he's more likely going to want to fire me, and that ties in with the job security rating. So if your AD approval rating is low, then it's more likely that the job security rating is going to drop and you'll get fired. So we want to keep that one high. You've got the boosters' approval that you have to be concerned about. You've got the fan approval that you want to be concerned about. You don't want the fans booing at the stadium, and that's bad. The media approval, trying to cozy up with the media. You've got, of course, the players and how they view you as a coach, and then the staff that's working under you. So all these, as he mentions here, are kind of like a juggler trying to juggle all these things at once to try to keep everyone happy. It's not an easy job, but those approval ratings will be changing from week to week based on our performance on and off the field. During the interview, the AD discusses the financials of the team. My team purchases staff and other things for the program through what I'm calling funding points. So long story short, the game doesn't have this yet, and I hope one day that they will, but this is my way to sort of say, how do I want to build my program through the staff and through other things, and I'm given a limited amount of funds to do it and to make it work. So the way I've got this is every person that's on my staff, including myself and all the coordinators and all the coaches, the positional coaches, which I think would be cool for them to add in the game eventually, are on here, plus all the approval ratings, plus something called team chemistry, plus our notoriety rating and reputation rating. These will all be explained a little bit, plus the athletic facilities. So all those have to be, quote, paid for through these funding points. And so for something to be ranked at an 80 out of 100, I have to pay 10 funding points. For something to be rated like a B, a 65, it costs 7. A C program is worth 5 points. It gets you a rating of 50. A D is worth 35, and then an F is 20. So through all these different categories, I have exactly 100 funding points to spend, and it was my job to decide how to spend those. Basically, the game gave me a rating of C minus, so then I gave myself 5 points, and I'm rated as a 50 coach. And then the game also said that our offensive coordinator is ranked a D, so I went ahead and purchased a 35 for him. And then our defensive coordinator is rated an F, so I went ahead and purchased a 1 for that. And then after those points were subtracted from my 100, I went around and spent the other points on the other categories, and I'll reveal those decisions in a little bit. And here you see on the sheet, you can see this is what I'm keeping track of all my things. So I've got this name of the program, Mesa State. This is year 1. We're rated a 27 overall. We're 27 offense, 27 defense. We're a 0-star program. Here are my head coach philosophies or tendencies that I already answered the questions to. Here are the approval ratings I have listed here. Here's my athletic facilities that I went ahead and, so you can see I basically did approval ratings mostly at 50s, a couple 35s. Athletic facilities, I wanted to make those nice, so I gave that a 65B rating. And I spent all my funding points except for one. So at 99 out of the 100 points I spent, so that left me with 1. I gave my program a 20 notoriety rating, which I'll get into in just a bit, what that means. A 35 reputation rating. My job security rating, as I mentioned, is an 80. And then I spent a little bit extra to give a B team chemistry rating at 65. Over here, as I mentioned, the different coaches, including myself and my coordinators, are on here, plus all the positional coaches. The boosters are on here. You can see their ratings right here. Except for the boosters, everybody is on a contract. I'm on a 3-year contract, as is my recruiting coordinator. My different coordinators have 1 or 2-year deals, and then you can see a variety of 1, 2, and 3-year deals. At the end of each season, those will run out. If someone is on a contract that's up, I'll either ask them to resign, or I might let them go. I can fire people. I'd still be responsible for paying that money. But then when I need to rehire or buy someone better, then that will come out of the funding points that I'll earn throughout the year. So if I want to get better people or better athletic facilities or any of those things, I will need to spend money, and I get that money through what I call funding points in the game. I think these would add a whole layer of complexity to being the coach, and especially the off the field stuff. I think that would be neat for them. And it is cool to see that Madden this year is adding basically like a physician type person to deal with the wear and tear. And so I think that's a step in the right direction. Madden currently has the different coordinators in the game, so that's once again a step in the right direction, as is college football. But I am looking forward to the day when you can have your running backs coach and your offensive line coach. All these little things could make the experience, I think, a lot better for both college football and for Madden. Oh, also, I mentioned rivals here, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. My rivals for Mesa State are Arizona, Arizona State, and UNLV. Okay, and then what I have are a couple of basically choose your own adventure questions. As we continue the season, I have a couple of meeting things, and what side do I want to spend my time on? I decided to spend more time with my offensive coordinator than my defensive coordinator. So I get to add 8 to my offensive coordinator because I rolled a D10 for that, a 10-sided die, and then of course I subtracted this 10-sided die from a defensive coordinator rating, and I rolled a 10 for that. So basically, if you go back to the screen, my offensive coordinator was a 35, but then when I rolled a 8 to move that person up to 43, and then with my defensive coordinator, he was ranked at a 20, and I rolled and subtracted 10, so now he's down to 10. So these are just different focuses in preseason that will impact the ratings that started the game. So the next question basically, how do I spend my day in the meetings? I spent more time on the X's and O's versus the recruiting, so then I get to add a 3 to my rating as a coach, so I go from a 50 to a 53, but then I subtract a D6 for the boosters who are disappointed I'm not spending time recruiting, so then I lose a D6 and I rolled and actually got a 6. Then the next day for the meetings, I spent more time working with myself, trying to do the play calling, and so I add, my AD approves of that, but then my staff is disappointed that I'm taking more of that onto myself. So I added 6 to my AD approval rating, and I subtracted 6 from my staff approval rating. The next one was I talked with the press, and I gave them very honest answers, and I got to roll D10 and add that to my media approval rating. I got a 10, so I got to add 10 to the media approval rating, but then my staff was disappointed I was spending time telling the media what's going on, and I wasn't keeping sort of that kind of closer to the vest, and so they're disappointed in me, so I subtract 4 from my approval rating with the staff. Then when it comes to another press conference, they asked me about how willing am I to take chances, and the fans love a coach that's aggressive. Unfortunately, the fans only liked it a bit, so I went up 2, but then the staff wanted me to be a little more conservative, and I lost 1 with them. So it still was a gain. Clearly, the staff early on is not real happy with how I'm handling things. Then I was asked about my discipline, and so the players like my answer to the question about this. I'm more of a player's coach, and I went up with them. That's a 7, but I think I went up with a 6. And then I subtracted 4 from the staff once again, because the staff's not real happy with me with that. They want to see a more authoritarian handling of the problems. Then when we get to the next question, it's about how will I respond during the game, and the fans love a very boisterous coach, and so I went up 6 with them. Unfortunately, though, the AD wanted me to be a little bit more stoic, and so I lost 11 with the AD for that response. For this one, how will I build up the program? I get to add a 3 to team chemistry. The players like the fact that I care about, I don't want those me players. I want a team effort, so I go up 3 in team chemistry. But then the boosters are sad I'm not trying to get the best talent out there, so I lost 4 with them. And then the last question, what's the quote right way to win this program? I said I want a culture, not winning at all costs, so my reputation rating went up 5, but then my notoriety rating dropped 4. Then it comes to the scheduling, and in this game, I am not allowed to schedule my own games. It's the athletic director's job, and so I'm using a chart that's going to look similar to this throughout the weeks. So I basically have games called historical rival games. Those are teams like Arizona, Arizona State, and UNLV that I will schedule if I roll historical rival. And then if that is a home game, then I'll get a D24 or 24-sided dice worth of funding points for playing that game. Whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. And then if it's an away game, I get half the points because we're not getting the revenue from the home game, but we're still getting TV things and merchandise and stuff like that. If it's a geographical rival, then I get to pick which one, but it has to be a team in our state or adjacent to the state. So if it's geographical rival, in our state or next to our state. If it's last year's closest game, this would be basically taking last year's games and looking at the games that were the closest in point spreads, and then picking the closest team first, and then the second closest game second if I were to re-roll and get that again. Low end cupcake, I get to pick, but it has to be a team that at the start of the season is rated as a 76 or lower. Random team, I have a chart set up where I roll the dice and then I randomly pick whatever team that is available to play that week. If that happens middle of the season, it's a little bit harder to pick teams because a lot of them are locked into their conference schedules, so it's not quite as diverse. But if you get this one early in the season, then it's kind of wide open. This was an interesting one, a top 25 money grab. Sometimes you'll see teams do this, where like a Mercer, and they'll schedule with Alabama, and you're like, why do they want to get beat 84-0? Well, because it helps them generate money. And so if our AD picks that, it has to be an away game, and then you'll notice I get a D60 funding point. So it's clearly the one worth the most funding points to schedule that. So it's a behind kicking on the field, but it definitely helps our wallet off the field. So that's what top 25 money grab means. The next one means user select. Obviously that means I get to pick which one. It can be any team I want. And then I've got bye weeks, and so the different bye weeks also have different funding points, and sometimes a bye week won't get you any funding points. So over the course of the season, this is kind of the chart. Now I do change it based on the week. So some weeks I have where it's more likely you'll do historical rival, or you'll have a geographical rival, or the top 25 money grab. You can see the numbers vary. And so at this time, I'm going to show you what our schedule looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and start with our schedule. It says the AD is responsible for scheduling games for our team. At the start of the dynasty, we are an independent team. To make the schedule, the AD will be using a chart to schedule each game, roll D20, and record. So the schedule was not made by me, it's made by the athletic director. So sometimes he may schedule games that I really don't want to play, and sometimes he may schedule games that I do want to play. But sometimes he does schedule games for money, because we do want those funding points to help our team improve. So here we go, week 0. Do we have a chance to schedule week 0? Yes. So let's go ahead and schedule week 0. I'll roll 12. The 12 is a bye week. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and give ourselves a bye week. So on 0 week, we are just going to watch everybody else play, and that bye week is worth D6 funding points. Another 2.
get 2 funding points from that week. All right, let's go ahead and schedule week 1. Let's see what we've got going on that day. I rolled a 15, which is a top 25 money grab. All right, so what this means is we are scheduling an away game that the AD said we need some money to help generate some interest in this squad, and yeah, we're probably going to get creamed, but we want to raise some money. So it has to be a preseason top 25 team and must be an away game. So let's look at teams that are in the top 25. BYU would be interesting. That's sort of regional. I like that. So far, I'm leaning towards Utah or BYU. Yeah, that team makes a lot of sense geographically for us, and I think that's the direction we're going to go. So we're going to schedule BYU. They are ranked 14th. And we are going to be going to there, and now I'm going to roll to see how much money that was worth us doing. I rolled and got a 53. That is huge. Those points are going to be used later on to upgrade a lot of our program. So we're getting 53 funding points for that traveling. It's going to be a crushing first week, but it was worth the money. All right, we're going to go on now to week 2. Let's see what the AD has in store for us here. I rolled and got a 7, which means low-end cupcake. So it says the user selects, it must be rated a 76 or lower. So in this case, I'm getting to pick any team that is low-end. So I think I might go with the FCS. Okay, so let's clear out this team here. Okay, now let's get an FCS opponent, I think is what we want. What's crazy is some of these teams are I mean, all these teams are better than us. But I think we would want the West. Although they're 65 as well. It doesn't have to be FCS, but I suppose that's the best. I mean, we could schedule against the Zips, that's for sure. Let's pick the Stallions. They don't have a very good offense or a very good defense. So we're going to take the Northwest Stallions, and that'll be a home game, and thus that'll be worth D10 for money. So we're going to roll to see how much money that brings in. I rolled a 2, so we're going to get 2 funding points for that game. And let's go to our next scheduled game. This will be week 3. Who's the AD going to schedule for us this week? I rolled a 9. It's a random team. Okay, so using the random chart, we will be selecting. So I've got a dice that I roll to determine that. And let's find out what team can be even at 42. It's going to be Indiana, if they can play. Indiana have room in their schedule for us. They do. And we should probably make that, let's see. Let's make that an away game. So that's going to be Indiana away. And thus with random, the money that's worth is worth a D8. See how much money we get for that. I rolled a 3. So that game will be worth 3 funding points as we travel to Indiana. That's a tough early schedule as far as BYU and Indiana. Probably 2 losses, hoping that we win that game. Next up is the 4. It says if team has had no buys yet. We did have one in week 0, so we're going to go ahead and roll. And I got a 16, which is a bye week. All right, so we're going to go ahead and schedule a bye week there. Can we do that? Yep. So let's go ahead and return the schedule. So week 4 will be a bye week. Okay. That'll be worth funding points. We got 2 funding points for that day as well. So you generate a little bit of money in the bye week, but not much. So next up we have week 5. Let's see what the 80 has in store for us here. I rolled a 17, which is user selects. User selects can be any team. And we're going to make this a home game. So that'll be worth some funding points. And I think we want to make that, I'd love to make that Akron. Maybe they don't have room in the schedule. And not as many teams are available this week. So what I want to do is kind of think about teams that match up with us. Georgia State's 65. Kent State's 64. New Mexico State would be 67. I like New Mexico State. Yeah. We're going to make New Mexico State, we're going to make that a home game. And since that is a home game, that'll be worth D12 money. Let's go ahead and roll to see how much that's worth. I rolled and got an 11. Nice. All right, we're moving on to week 6. Let's find out what the AD has in store for us this week. I rolled and got a 1. Historical rival. So in this one, we are going to be facing an historical rival. Now, in this series, I have 3 historical rivals. Since we are from Arizona, we got Arizona, Arizona State, and I have UNLV. And with those games, since they are rivals, they have to be played. That rival game has to be played on the next highest difficulty setting, which is Heisman. So that game will be played in Heisman. We are going to make that one a home game, and we're going to make that against UNLV if we can. So are the Arizona squads ready? Arizona State is ready for us that week, and so we will be taking on Arizona State at home in week 6, and that will be worth, let's see, historical rival, that's a D24 game as far as money goes. It was 13. We're definitely generating some good money on this schedule. Now, as far as wins and losses go, it could be pretty brutal. All right, so week 7. Definitely already have a very cool schedule that the GM has given us. What are we doing in week 6? It's a low-end cupcake. I think we're going to make that an away game. And it's going to be worth 6. Nice. So that's going to be worth 6. And a low-end cupcake. So in week 7, we're going to be traveling to Air Force wouldn't be bad. That'd be kind of fun to do. They run the option. Yeah, let's do Air Force. We're going to travel to Falcon Stadium for week 7. Now we have week 8. Rolled and got a last year's closest game. Okay, last year we didn't have a game because this is the first year in D1. So I'm going to re-roll. Got a 6. Geographical rival. It says geographical rival user selects must be in-state or adjacent to state. Well, that's going to be one of the Arizona schools or UNLV. Let's see what we've got here. For week 8, I rolled the geographical rival, and so California's next to us, and there weren't a lot of teams to pick from. I tried to find Nevada, or I tried to find, but anyway, California is available, and Fresno State is available. So we're going to go ahead and go to Fresno State, and that's worth the D10 in funding, and I got a 6. So we are going to get 6 more funding points for that week, and we're available to move on to week number 9. Week 9, what does the AD have in store for us this week? Got a 7, which is a random team. All right, so we're going to do a random team this week with Texas. So we'll make that one. That was a random team. Let's make that one a home one. That was worth 13. So we're going to have Rice at home. So far we've got home, at home, at home, home, at home. All right, let's go ahead and go to week 10. It says week 10. If the team has only had 1 bye yet, then this is an auto bye week. So we have had we've had 2 byes, the 0 week and that. So we are good to schedule a game here. So let's see what the AD's got in store for us in week 10. 19. It's a bye week. Okay, so we are going to schedule another bye week. Let's go ahead and put a team in this one. So week 10 is going to be a bye week, and that's worth 4. And we're up to week 11. Let's see what the AD has in store. It's 4. Low-end cupcake. And let's make this a away game, which means it'll be worth E5. It'll be worth 1. Okay, so we're going to get 1 out of that one. Okay, who are we going to schedule this week? Looking for a cupcake. Central Michigan wouldn't be bad. 66. Navy runs the option. We go Air Force. Old Dominion's a 64. Let's go Old Dominion. We'll travel Old Dominion for that one. And then let's go to week 12. It's a random team, okay? And so let's roll to see which 2. So we're in this area here. We're playing Rutgers. Okay, Rutgers. That's going to be a tough game. Hold on, wait, we have so far. We have 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 4, 4 and 5. Let's travel to Rutgers, and then we'll end on 2 home games. So at Rutgers as a random, so it's a D8 for money. Got a 6. All right, week 13. What do we have on the schedule for week 13? User selects. It can be any team. This is going to be a home game. Okay, so who do we want to play week 13? And we have UNLV there, so that would be a rivalry game. But we'd have to play that on the highest difficulty setting. Maybe not this week. Maybe picking, how about Delaware? Delaware would be fun to play. Or we go to Navy. Yeah, let's do Navy. So we're going to schedule Navy at home. And then for week 14, so I rolled bye week, but we can't do a bye week. We have to schedule another team. Let's roll again. Top 25 money grab. Okay, so it must be an away game. So let's see what top 25 teams are available to play that week. Wow, there are several to play. Clemson, Florida, Georgia, Louisville, Notre Dame, and South Carolina. Well, I think Louisville makes the most sense because they're ranked the worst. So we'll travel out to Louisville to play that game. So that's pretty good funding. And so since that's an away game, we're going to make one of these home games. Let's make the Old Dominion game a home game. Because at least there, we might have a chance to win. I think Rutgers is going to kick us around. So, at home. Okay. So I think our schedule is set. So we are going to set up our recruiting board and scout prospects. We're going to do that this week, so let's go ahead and do that. I want to do that off screen. We're recruiting with limited hours, only 315 hours because we are a 0-star program. I basically went in and tried to put the board of mixture of quarterback. I just went through the positions, and then I just started scouting, just trying to see if anybody is a gem, 1-star gem, and then I didn't find that. I didn't find also any bust, which is good. I don't know what 1-star bust would be. And then I had enough points to go ahead and offer Tyler B a scholarship. So that's where we are in recruiting for the preseason as we get ready to do the first year of Mesa State Monsters.
Now that we know our schedule, let's go back to talks with the AD. The AD talks to me about our team's notoriety rating, or NR. In order to move conferences, our team's NR, notoriety rating, must be at 100 or higher when conference changes occur in the off-season. If I want to change conferences or join a conference as an independent, when I'm an independent, which I am now, I have to spend 100 of the points to move to a different conference. So if I can accumulate 125 notoriety rating points, then in the off-season I can spend 100 of those 125 to jump to a conference higher, and then those points would be spent. This conference can be one conference higher in prestige than the current conference I'm in. Currently I'm starting at it as an independent, but we're going to consider that like the lowest, even though in the game it's actually rated higher than the lowest. But basically, if I wanted to jump up to whatever the conference is when it happens, maybe it's the Conference USA or the Sun Belt, one of those things, I would need to spend 100 of my notoriety rating points. On the flip side, at the end of the season, if my team's NR rating, or NR, is at a 0 or lower, then my team is placed on notice. And if it's at 0 or lower at the end of the second season, my team is, quote, on the hot seat. And if it's at a 0 or lower at the end of a third straight season, then I am basically relegated to one conference lower than the current one that we're in. Now, granted, I can't be relegated past independent, but if after 3 seasons I'm in the hot seat for that, there's a good chance I'm probably getting fired anyway. So this is just a way to have a feeling of progression, like not just always staying as an independent, but eventually moving to a conference and then not getting shoehorned into a lower conference like Conference USA or the Sun Belt. And when do you leave those conferences? Well, winning games and winning conference championships will earn me notoriety rating points, which will then feel natural to then say, okay, I'm ready to move to a different conference. So it's going to feel, I think, very natural to do that. Then the AD talks to me about our team's reputation rating. Now the RR reputation rating, this is a reflection of how, quote, clean the program is being run For example, are student athletes going to class? Are they using performance-enhancing drugs? Are they cheating on exams? One incident is just one incident. However, repeated offenses begin to give a program a lasting, tainted stain. A score of 100 means that I am running a clean program, while a score that dips under 30 begins to draw unwelcome attention from the NCAA or other people who do not want to see the program bringing a bad name to the school. Then the AD talks to me about our team's rivals. For Mesa State, our rivals currently are Arizona, Arizona State, and UNLV, in that order. These are our natural rivalries. Other events may cause other rivals to join our list of rivalries. When a rivalry game is played, the difficulty is increased by one level to Heisman. So I'm playing an All-American, but if it's a rivalry game, then I bump it up to Heisman. If the difficulty is already set to Heisman, then all the sliders for the AI are improved by a plus 10 for the rivalry game. After the game's over, the sliders are returned to normal. So this is just to show the increased, just how much more motivated teams are to play in these rivalry games. So it ups the ante quite a bit in those rivalry experiences. Then the AD talks to me about team chemistry. Team chemistry is a numerical indicator showing how cohesive the team feels about our performance. A low team chemistry can snowball quickly, while higher team chemistry can help teams reach their full potential. Then the AD talks to me about our team's athletic facilities. It's a numerical indicator showing how modern and beneficial our athletic facilities are to the players, the staff, and the fans. Great facilities can enhance a program, while poor, outdated facilities can drag a program down. Now, currently the game doesn't have athletic facilities. They used to. In the older games, it was fun. You could actually build different levels to your facilities, and you could modernize them and add on, and that was really cool. And I do think one day they'll bring that back. I think that's probably down the road, a year or two from now. Right now in the game, they have a letter grade for it, but it doesn't really change. But you can't change it by purchasing new facilities. This is a way for me in the game to have that sort of feel. Like, do you want to improve your athletic facilities? Because in my game, at the end of the season, if you don't try to improve the athletic facilities, they're going to get worse. They're going to become less modern. And so I've got that in the game moving forward. Then the AD says, okay, here's your schedule for the year. How do you think we're going to do? My answer will carry consequences, and then I will record my response in the info sheet. So I can tell the AD, we're going to be a stellar team. We're going to have no wins or one win. Or I could say, we're going to be a rebuilding team. We're going to get 2 to 3 wins. Or I could say, we're going to be a sub 500 team with 4 to 5 wins. Or I can say, we'll be a 500 team and maybe bowl eligible. Or a winning record and bowl game eligible for sure. And then the next stage, of course, is double-digit wins and a bowl game victory. Conference champs, make the college football playoffs, win the college football playoff game, or win the college football championship. And these all have impacts on how the athletic director views me. And I was honest right at the gates. As a 27, we are a stellar team. And yes, we're in the FBS, but we don't have an FBS rated team. We're a 27. So I was honest and I said, we're going to be a stellar team. We'll be lucky to get one win. Now, the consequence of that honesty is that I lose a D30 approval rating with the athletic director. I rolled and got an 11. So I lost 11 points with the athletic director for that response. It was honest, but he didn't want to hear that. He wanted to hear a different answer, but I was shooting him straight. So after all of my reflections on all the things that I've done, this is my new updated sheet of how things are looking. So you can kind of see how I've got now 143 funding points from all the games that I scheduled. When I rolled, I got funding points for that. And so instead of keeping track of that week by week throughout the season, I just put them into one lump sum. So it's sort of in our coffers out of the gates. It's not the most realistic thing. That money would probably come week to week, but still, we've got 143 points now in the coffers to spend on things like improving athletic facilities, recruiting, things like that. And then it also shows the notoriety ratings changed. There's my job security rating, the reputation rating, team chemistry. There's my season prediction. Here are all my ratings as they've been adjusted. Notice I went up a little bit with coaching. My defensive coordinator went down. You can see all the variety of things that have been changed based on some of the answers that I gave. And so that takes us through the preseason. And so in the next episode, we're going to do week 0 and take a closer look at the team. And so there we are. Hopefully this gives you an indication of I've put a lot of time and effort and thought into how to make the college experience even better. I mean, the game is amazing as it is. I'm just trying to add little flourishes, these random events and things like that to really enhance the experience and make it a memorable one. So if you haven't already, think about subscribing and smash that like button and tell a friend. I would love to see more people see some of these ideas and then incorporate them into their own franchise/dynasty experience. And thanks again, as always. Have a great day.